Donald Trump wants peace in Ukraine, he wants it now. He says Russia and Ukraine should stop fighting, right now. Trump says he can make this happen. He says he can get Russia and Ukraine to talk. Trump's idea is different from what Biden wants. Biden wants to keep helping Ukraine. Biden wants Ukraine to be strong. Then, maybe, Russia will talk. Trump's idea is a big deal. It could change everything, or it could do nothing. Donald Trump thinks he can fix the war in Ukraine. He has often spoken about his ability to negotiate and bring people together, claiming that his unique skills and experience make him the ideal person to resolve this conflict. He says he's the only one who can. According to Trump, his track record in business and politics demonstrates his capability to handle complex situations and achieve favorable outcomes. Why? Because he knows Vladimir Putin. They've met before. Trump believes that his personal rapport with Putin could be the key to unlocking a peaceful resolution. Trump says they get along. He often highlights their past interactions as evidence of a mutual respect that could facilitate negotiations. Trump says he can make a deal with Putin. He envisions a scenario where both parties come to the table and hammer out an agreement that satisfies both sides. A deal to stop the fighting. Trump believes that with the right approach, a ceasefire and lasting peace can be achieved. Trump says it would be easy. He compares it to his experience in real estate, where negotiating deals is a routine part of the job, like making a deal for a new building. He believes that the principles of negotiation are the same, whether it's for a skyscraper or a peace treaty. Not everyone agrees. Critics argue that international diplomacy is far more complex than business deals. Some people say Trump is being naive. They point out that the geopolitical stakes are much higher and involve numerous variables that are beyond the control of any one individual. They say Putin wants to conquer Ukraine. Critics argue that Putin's ambitions go beyond what can be resolved through simple negotiations. Experts suggest that the conflict is deeply rooted in historical, cultural and political issues that require a multifaceted approach. They believe that a combination of diplomatic pressure, economic sanctions and international cooperation is necessary to address the situation effectively. Despite the skepticism, Trump remains confident. He continues to assert that his unique approach and personal connections could bring about a resolution. His supporters believe in his vision. They argue that his unconventional methods could be exactly what's needed to break the deadlock. Meanwhile, the situation in Ukraine remains dire. The ongoing conflict continues to cause immense suffering and displacement. The international community watches closely, hoping for a breakthrough that could bring peace to the region. Whether Trump's approach will work remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: the world is in desperate need of a solution. World leaders are talking about Trump's peace plan. Some like it, some don't. Ukrainian President Zelensky says he talked to Trump. He says it was a good talk. But Zelensky wants a fair peace. He wants Ukraine to be safe. Putin's people say Russia is open to talks, but they say Zelensky won't talk to Putin. So, what's the point? Other countries are worried. They think Trump's plan might help Russia. They think Russia might start fighting again later, after they've had a rest. America's allies are worried. They think Trump's plan is dangerous. They think a ceasefire will help Russia more than Ukraine. They think Russia will use the ceasefire to get stronger. Then Russia will attack again. Some experts agree. They say Ukraine needs more weapons. They need more money. They need to be strong enough to fight Russia. Only then will Russia take peace talks seriously. Trump disagrees. He says the US is giving too much money to Ukraine. He says it's time for Europe to pay. Section 5. Trump on NATO. Is the US leaving? This question has been on the minds of many ever since Trump first brought it up. His stance on NATO has always been controversial, stirring debates and concerns both domestically and internationally. Trump is angry at NATO. He has repeatedly expressed his frustration with the organization, accusing other member countries of not contributing their fair share. His anger is palpable, and his words have often been harsh and direct. He says other NATO countries aren't paying enough. According to Trump, the financial burden of maintaining NATO falls disproportionately on the United States. He believes that other member nations are not meeting their financial obligations, leaving the US to pick up the slack. He says the US is paying too much. Trump has often highlighted the significant amount of money the US spends on NATO, arguing that these funds could be better used domestically. He has called for a re-evaluation of the US's financial commitment to the alliance. He says maybe the US should leave NATO. This statement has sent shockwaves through the international community. The idea of the US withdrawing from NATO is unprecedented and has raised numerous questions about the future of the alliance. This isn't the first time Trump has said this. His rhetoric on NATO has been consistent over the years, and he has made similar statements on multiple occasions. Each time it has sparked intense debate and concern. He said it when he was president. During his tenure, Trump frequently criticized NATO, questioning its relevance and the fairness of the financial contributions. His administration's stance on NATO was a significant departure from previous US policies. He said it during his campaign. Even before he took office, Trump made his views on NATO clear. His campaign speeches often included criticisms of the alliance, resonating with a segment of the electorate that felt the US was being taken advantage of, and he's saying it again now. Despite the backlash and the potential consequences, Trump continues to voice his opinion on NATO. His recent statements have reignited the debate and brought the issue back into the spotlight. Many people think leaving NATO would be a disaster. Critics argue that NATO is crucial for maintaining global security and that the US's withdrawal would weaken the alliance. They believe that such a move would have far-reaching implications. They say it would make America less safe. Opponents of Trump's stance argue that NATO provides a vital security umbrella for the US. They fear that leaving the alliance would leave the country vulnerable to threats and diminish its influence on the global stage. They say it would make the world more dangerous. The potential destabilization of NATO could lead to increased global tensions and conflicts. International leaders and experts warn that the absence of US leadership in NATO could embolden adversaries and create a power vacuum. Section 6. Trump's busy schedule. Meetings with world leaders. Trump is meeting with world leaders. He's been to France. He's met with the French president. He's met with Zelensky. He's talking about Ukraine. He's talking about peace. Some people think it's strange that Trump is doing this. He's not president yet. He doesn't have any official power. But he's acting like he's in charge. Trump doesn't care. He says he's doing what he thinks is right. He says he's trying to save lives. Section 7. The Logan Act. Can Trump do this? This question has been on the minds of many Americans and legal experts alike. The Logan Act, a law that dates back to 1799, was designed to prevent unauthorized individuals from interfering in the nation's foreign policy. But in today's complex political landscape, its relevance and enforceability are hotly debated. Some people say Trump is breaking the law. They argue that his actions, particularly his communications with foreign leaders and governments, are in direct violation of the Logan Act. These critics believe that by engaging in these activities, Trump is undermining the official foreign policy of the United States, which could have serious implications for national security and international relations. They say he's violating the Logan Act. This law, though rarely enforced, has been a point of contention for centuries. It was originally enacted to prevent private citizens from negotiating with foreign governments without authorization, a practice that could potentially disrupt the delicate balance of international diplomacy. The Logan Act is an old law. It was signed into law by President John Adams and has been part of the U.S. legal framework for over 2 centuries. Despite its age, the principles behind the Logan Act remain relevant, as they aim to protect the integrity of the nation's foreign policy. It says private citizens can't interfere with U.S. foreign policy. This means that any unauthorized negotiations or communications with foreign governments by individuals who are not officially representing the U.S. government could be considered illegal under this act. Trump says he doesn't care about the Logan Act. He has publicly dismissed the law as outdated and irrelevant, arguing that his actions are in the best interest of the country. His supporters echo this sentiment, claiming that the Logan Act is an antiquated piece of legislation that should not be used to hinder the actions of a former president. He says it's a stupid law. Trump's disregard for the Logan Act has sparked a heated debate among legal scholars, politicians, and the general public. Some view his stance as a bold move to challenge outdated laws, while others see it as a dangerous precedent that could undermine the rule of law. He says he's going to do what he wants. This defiance has raised questions about the limits of presidential power and the role of the Logan Act in modern governance. Can a former president truly act with impunity, or should there be consequences for actions that potentially violate established laws? Legal experts say the Logan Act is rarely enforced. In fact, there have been very few prosecutions under this law since its inception. Many legal scholars argue that the act is more symbolic than practical, serving as a deterrent rather than a tool for actual legal action. They say it's probably unconstitutional. Critics of the Logan Act argue that it may infringe on the First Amendment rights of free speech and free association. This constitutional challenge has made it difficult to enforce the law, leading to its status as a largely dormant piece of legislation. But it's still a law. Despite the debates and challenges, the Logan Act remains on the books. Its existence continues to spark discussions about its relevance and the need for potential reform, and Trump might be breaking it. Whether or not he will face any legal consequences for his actions remains to be seen. The ongoing debate over the Logan Act and its application to modern political figures like Trump highlights the complexities of balancing historical laws with contemporary governance. Section 8, U.S. aid to Ukraine, billions and billions. The U.S. is giving billions of dollars to Ukraine. This money is for weapons, it's for humanitarian aid, it's to help Ukraine fight Russia. Trump says this is a mistake. He says the U.S. should stop giving money to Ukraine. He says Ukraine should fight its own battles. The Biden administration disagrees. They say it's important to support Ukraine. They say it's important to stop Russia. They say it's important to defend democracy.